Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday's 10 at 10. We have Richard today with me to help answer probably about 5 to 6 questions. We are really sorry we are not able to cover all of them today, but those were pretty loaded questions that came through last week. And I just want to thank Richard for coming on because I think we're a great team because I guess the more we do it together, the more questions come in. So before we start, I wanted to show you what we have here. This is a thermal profiling curve, and we are going to be examining this in detail this Thursday at 9. So I put the link below for you to join us and sign up. And we are going to spend 45 minutes to an hour learning how to thermal profile, okay? Bread bakers, this is really important because I get a lot of questions on this all the time. So I'll see you this Thursday. Follow the link below to go sign up. All right. So let's bring Richard on. Hi, Richard. Okay, let's see if I can get back on. I do this to myself all the time. Hang on. Oops. Hang on. Let me just bring myself back. Okay. How do I do that? Maybe I could do this. There you go. One of these days, I'm going to get it correct. I promise. Maybe the next time we're together. Okay, Richard, are you ready for the first question? Yes, I can see you, I believe. Just hang on. Oh, it does? Okay. All right, here.
All right. Hey,
yay, I got it.
all right.
Okay. First question. Let's see. Let me pull out my document again. All right. Dear Richard and Lynn, greetings of the day. Is it possible to formulate a pound cake with a shelf life of 6 months? If yes, kindly elaborate on ingredients used.
Yeah. Everything is. There's no small task to the bakery, but everything is doable. It's like going to the moon. So, in order to get to 6 months, you will have to select the proper ingredients. So, basically, a good humectant, maybe hydrocolloids, some enzymes, and it's gonna be personally. My personal opinion is the formula will be about 40% of the work, and then 60% of the rest of the work would be selecting the proper packaging, because packaging is essential, and also having a clean plant helps too. Good sanitation program to ensure that for 6 months nothing will happen. So that's sort of the very condensed answer for a 6 month shelf life.
Intrinsic, extrinsic, and packaging, right? So intrinsic, we're talking about water activity, we're talking about preservatives and enzymes, right?
Correct.
Can you touch a little bit about that?
Well, we'll start, and you were saying about the intrinsic, about the right ingredients, correct, or the enzymes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I would say if you start with, let's say, for enzyme, for example, starting with the enzyme, looking at how you formulate it, what kind of ingredients do you have in there? And most of the bakers were using carbohydrates, so you would use some amylase enzyme to break it down, but there's different ones, so you just don't take anything. Then you can use silanase to maybe get some strength if you want to. You can use some phospholipase to work with your eggs if it's a cake. That's where it would start. Water activity. The rule outside, I would say, some people would say anything in order to have no pathogens growing in your system lower than 0.65. Some people under U.S. military will say 8.5 is okay. And then after that, you have to deal with the mold. How do you prevent the mold? To me, the only efficient and clean label way to do it is remove the oxygen, because once you deplete the oxygen for your packaging, then the no mold spores can grow. So
Right.
it's quick. It's a quick answer, but I think we can
Yeah.
elaborate more. But
Well, if this person needs more help on this particular, I mean, it's not just, a 2-minute answer. You need some consultation help on this. So if you guys need, Richard is always available, and he's available on our consultation page. So you can hire him for this project if you need. It's doable. 6 months is doable with a lot of things. So you need to really get some professional help on that.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to our CMC page. Richard, is there a guide or chart to help know how much to use CMC in bread baking? I don't usually work with CMC, but I know gums are usually used at a 0.5 level. So what do you think?
Well, based on recommendation from ingredient vendors, basically manufacturer of CMC.
You can say the name. If they provide you the information,
I can plug it from DuPont.
Yeah.
And Dow DuPont and
Dow DuPont.
And they do, you can contact them directly. If you need a direct contact, I'll send you a contact of my friend. But overall, I got a cheat sheet. I know it's small to read, but if you reach me via email or through Lynn, I would be more than happy to forward it to you. But overall, it's between 0.5 to 1.5% usage. And it's used in rye bread, in tortilla, in pita bread, and wheat bread. It's to help retain the freshness and keep
I was
the
just
water.
going to ask, what's the use of CMC? How does it improve the rheological or texture of bread products?
Well, knowing that CMC and it stands for carbamethylcellulose. It's a cellulose-based or hemicellulose-based item. So it's highly hydrophilic. Sorry, not hydrophobic.
Hydrophilic, yeah.
It loves water. So it's able to bind and hold some water into your system to help with the shelf life of your product.
Well, Javed at Moorish Foods want that information. So if you could just, send it to him or ask your friend from DuPont to reach out to him, that'd be great. Yeah.
And once, unless there's an email, I'll forward it to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's used to help basically freshness of the product by holding water. What is the basis of shelf life? We've had a lot of question about shelf life. It's how do you control your moisture? And your moisture is great to have, but also the more moisture you have, you're dealing with issues with mold growth and maybe pathogens and other issues. So how do you keep your moisture in and keep the impression of moistness and without having all the issues and keep the freshness? So and CMC is being used between 0.5 to 1.5%.
Yeah, thank you for the information. So shelf life extension, what preservatives can I add in gluten-free dry baking mixes for extending the shelf life? There are a couple of things you could use. Obviously, cultured wheat is not one of them. Richard, what would you recommend?
Well, any cultured other grain like corn, cultured corn can be used.
Cultured corn, cultured whey.
Cultured whey. Keeping the shelf life. So we're saying you either do it through water activity. You can, if you could lower it low enough to control it.
That's why I have a question on this for you, right? Do they really need any preservatives if they reduce the water activity and they package it into a really nice container? You know what I mean?
I would say no, because when I worked on doing the MRE for the U.S. military, as long as we got that 8.5 in the right packaging, and we would use oxygen scavengers to remove oxygen and beautiful tri-laminate packaging.
You don't need preservatives.
I agree.
But if you do want to have preservatives so that your bakers can have a shelf life than something like cultured whey, cultured
Wheat. Not wheat.
corn, something that J&K has that's sourmate, that's gluten-free, reach out to us and we'll let you know how to contact them. That will work as well. But if you keep the water activity down low and oxygen scavenges in the packaging, don't need any. Okay. All right. So next up, again, from our potassium sorbate page, a lot of preservative questions, Richard. We're reaching a lot of the bakers out there who need shelf life. Can potassium sorbate be used in yeast donuts at the mixing stage of flour by adding it there? Okay, that's what I'm seeing. Temperature is between 35 degrees Celsius up to 45 degrees Celsius. How many days can it preserve the donuts at room temperature? At this room temperature?
Wow, that's potassium
sorbate. That's a big ask. That's a big ask for yeasted donuts. I think texture will be a bigger issue than anything.
Yeah,
but the question is potassium sorbate will be used.
But potassium sorbate is not going to be your friend when you're using yeast. Yeast is not going to like it, so you're going to have to end up using more and more yeast to get something. And the more yeast you're getting, you're going to get what we call, dead yeast cells, which you're creating your own glutathione, your own reducing agent, and your dough is going to be becoming slack. And I've seen it done in lots of bakeries where they think they're blaming the miller. They say, my flour is terrible, I don't want to use it. But there are other methods. Calcium propionate might be a better option. And that's what I would say. Move away from potassium from this one, the bromate. That's what yeah. And
potassium sorbate, that's also an encapsulated form. There's also an encapsulated form of potassium sorbate, that they can use. But cultured wheat, right? Or calcium. I mean, a lot of people don't want to use calcium propionate, but I think that's the most effective way to do it. There's nothing wrong with calcium propionate.
No. And look at your, I always tell my friend, all the bakers, if once you ferment something, look at your pH and your TTA, because then you'll know what to use. Because if you ferment it quickly and you get a pH of 5.8, 5.9, very quick, rapid fermentation, you might be able to ferment it longer and get a 5.4, 5.2 to 5.5, and then you can use less. Less is always better in terms of preservative, because if you try it, I always did it, and I know I don't recommend it, but if you take a sorbate or potassium sorbate or anything else, I do a little bit of try it, and you'll see it doesn't taste very good, and it serves a purpose. It's functional food. It's not food. So let's use it wisely.
So there's a comment that says you can use germicidal UVC lamps before packing to reduce the microbial load. That is a possibility, but to me, this sounds more like a artisanal bakery application. So it's going to be exposed to air.
Yep.
So that wouldn't work. So anyway, next would be, this is more like a artisanal bread baking question. I've been using Bob's Red Mill artisan bread flour, getting very good results. Because of the recent shortage, I bought a 50-pound sack of Pillsbury 4X patent flour, which has a protein level of over 12.6%. I followed the exact recipe, got a very different result. It seems that patent flour is stiffer and I get less rice than I get from artisan bread, Bob's Red Mill artisan flour. I'm stumped. Why? Does patent flour need more moisture to get the same dough consistency? Are there other differences between the two flours? And what would affect how much liquid you would use? This is such a loaded question. Where do you want to start?
Well, to all our friends here listening or will listen, all right, not all flours are created equal.
Yeah,
it can be called. I come
bread flour.
No, exactly. I come from milling, and I always said, there is two things we have to look at, and please remember that: protein quantity and protein quality. Protein quantity doesn't mean anything. I've seen people make a beautiful, beautiful bread with 9% protein. You're going to say, how? Well, it's the quantity. It's going to be the way it's being milled. It's going to be the way it's being processed. And it's going to be what variety of wheat are they using? Because you don't know and I don't know. So each variety, because it's a living organism, it goes through the soil, through the season, how much moisture, how much pesticides and things they're getting. So it's different. But to answer your question, I did look up online, and that's a big misconception in a bakery. When you buy a bag, look at what additive they're adding to it. And if I looked online, and please do so, it says the 4X patent flour from General Mills, it's bleached, bromated, and enriched. So now you have potassium bromate.
Oh, nice.
It's a strong oxidized, and what it's going to do to your dough, it's going to tighten it up. And
you can get more water.
Yep, yeah, more water will help. You're going to get more volume, but there is ways to work it. But that's the key, is what, even though it's the same, it's not the same.
Okay, I hope that helps you. Okay, if you feel like you have a stiffer dough, which Richard said in this case is probably because of oxidation, you can actually add more water. But in terms of grade, not one is better than the other. They're just different. I hope that makes sense to you. All right, let's go on to the next question. Mono and diglycerides page. Can I use mono and diglycerides to replace soybean oil? I have done so in a formulation with an improvement in shelf life after frozen storage. My question is that a common substitution to decrease the oil content, or is it just working for my specific formulation due to the balance of my other ingredients? So you cannot use monodiglycerides to replace soybean oil. Okay. And I think that it's a formulation thing that you experience. What do you think, Richard?
Well, I agree with you. We always use the mono and di as an emulsifier to help with process. Mono and di was used quite a lot in bread bakeries because the shear that it creates when you run 120, 160 loaves per minute in the machine, and the pistons, and they're just cutting your dough balls. So it has a purpose. But in terms of using an inert ingredient such as an oil to lubricate or to create texture, it's not. One, it'll be really, really expensive, from an economical standpoint. And even though it's coming from a triglyceride, the backbone of fat, that's where it's confusing. It's not considered fat. It's a functional ingredient at this point because it's been processed to use for the bakery industry to help achieve higher throughput or texture. Yeah.
All right. Hope that helps. We need to run along because we are really over time on this one. 2 more questions on the cheesecake page. Hi, I really need an answer from you experts. We're experts, Richard.
All right. I love it.
What should I use for unbaked cheesecake to make it last 6 months by commercial standards, and how to use it? I am producing a blueberry cheesecake, lemon cheesecake, and unbaked cheesecake contains cream cheese, heavy cream, gelatin. Do I need to add artificial preservatives? If yes, what is it and how much, and how do I add the preservatives to my unbaked cheesecake? All right, dear baker, first thing you need to understand, food safety, okay? The reason why a lot of the products out there in the market are shelf stable is a lot of them go through a kill step. Unbaked cheesecake does not go through a kill step. So I don't know about you, Richard, but my recommendation is don't sell unbaked cheesecake for 6 months. What do you think?
Unless it's frozen application.
Unless it's frozen, right?
And then you're basically stopping any growth. It doesn't mean you will have no growth. You're stopping everything. The water, everything gets in a crystal form. At that point, think of Ready Whip, not Ready Whip, the tub of Ready Whip. And it's in a tub, and it's almost like what you're doing on baked, that it's all suspended. and they freeze it for that reason, because it contains a lot of water, and if water being ambient, it's safety issues, and I would not recommend doing it ambient, but unless it's formulated for it.
Right. So in that aspect, if it's a frozen application or storage, what artificial preservatives do you think this baker needs to use?
Some acidity, because again, if you go with different acids, where they say that if you less than 4.6 on the pH scale, it helps kill certain pathogens. So you would be good, like like you see the ambient at the grocery store, the lemon juice. It's not technically lemon juice, but it's preserved lemon juice plus other ingredients to preserve. So any acids that will lower to 4.6, but you will also change the flavor of your product.
Awesome. I hope that answers your question. All right, last question from our flaxseed flour page. Can I add flaxseed flour instead of gluten along to atta flour, which is the Indian whole wheat flour for bread baking? ? So I have used a lot of flaxseed flour in gluten-free baking to help with the strength and viscosity of the gluten-free bread. It does have a lot of gluten properties, but not all of it. So I say, yes, to a certain extent, you can do that. You can absolutely try it. It's not going to be as good as gluten, but it's going to be better than nothing. So what's your opinion on this, Richard?
Well, I do think, as soon as you go from, because they mentioned, I think, the atta flour, which is a wheat variety, and to go towards a gluten-free type, flax will help bind. But what I've learned, if you want to use flax, is the particle size, and you're saying seeds. There are people who sell microfine, it's almost spatter-like. It's going to be more hygroscopic, meaning picking more moisture and holding better. It works well. But remember, with flax, the more flax you put, flax oil, you have remnants of oil, and it will have a fishy taste, and it's not pleasant. So overall, today you have a lot of different fibers that you can use as well to bind it. And I would do some trial and error experiment. But if you have questions, feel free to contact me directly on the page.
Sounds good. And we better wrap it up. So if you sent questions through and it's not answered this week, please go to the forums, Bakerpedia forums, so that you can get it answered immediately. Otherwise, you got to wait another week for me and Richard to come back on.
Right.
Okay?
That's all for
this week.
All right, bye.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Lynn.
Bye. Bye.